Mouse click. Tab 579. Click. Mouse click. Backspace 10.
Pine Point was the first place I ever went alone. I was 9, living in Yellowknife, and went there for a hockey tournament. I don't remember much. The 45-minute plane ride, those giant propellers, the rink's blue lobby, and that's about it. This isn't the plane. My team's not on it. But it is Pine Point, around the time I was there. My family left the North when I was 10. We moved to Regina, and I became that kid who got A's and F's. The guy who didn't look forward to the day things would change. My name is Mike Simons. One night last year, I went online to see what had become of Pine Point. Turns out, Pine Point isn't there anymore. Really? The website I found was called Pine Point Revisited. This is what it looks like. Plenty of images of people and enormous trucks, big holes in the ground. It was a mining town. This isn't Facebook. The photos have scratches, wrinkles, and dust. They reminded me of my own family album. My dad died in 1999. When I try to picture him, I don't see him. I see photos of him. Though I had only stayed a short while in the actual town of Pine Point, I spent hours going through its memorial. The site was the least disingenuous thing I had seen in a long time. Looking in, it's hard not to think that it was a great time to be alive and up north, in a time before seatbelts and sunscreen, when you could still pull block-long wheelies without fear of consequence. The pictures are impossibly friendly. Even the colors and textures seem unself-conscious. Wood paneling, perms, velour, deep shag. It was maybe the last truly iconic era. The last time we went through the motions of change together. Everyone excited by the same things at the same time. I always found this comforting. Pine Point didn't have much in the way of phone book cover-worthy symbols. The water tower emerges as a constant lovingly portrayed over years and through seasons. I can't for the life of me remember what Regina's icons might have been. Maybe the SAS Power building? Because it curved? The mine closed in 1987. Most industry towns, after losing their purpose, attempt resurrections, or just slowly wither away. In Pine Point, they decided to erase the town from the face of the earth. By the following year, almost everything had been hauled away, buried, or burned. Even the arena where they held their winter carnivals, home to my last little flickering memory, gone as though it never was. This place was planned in some other place. Pine Point had none of the organic growth of most towns, where things morphed to fit trends and tides of people. Instead, it was Economics 101. A. Build a town. B. Fill it with things that towns need. And C. Let the people in. If you mounted a social experiment on the creation of hometown memories, it would probably look something like the town of Pine Point, isolated in an unforgiving landscape and built with a singular purpose. In the end, it was left standing just long enough for a single generation to run through it. I decided to visit Pine Point again. On my way up, I stopped in Yellowknife to see what had changed in my old hometown. Turns out, not as much as you'd think. The houses I had lived in were all still there, pretty much unchanged. More channels. Furniture you can take apart. Though the families offered, I didn't feel any need to go inside. Wandering around back though, I was met with that incredibly specific Canadian Shield backyard. Stubby evergreens and assorted pokey shrubs, Great Slave Lake just beyond. Here, my memories are thick. Drinking tea with my dad atop our mountain. The time my brother kicked me in the face while climbing it. His foot slipped. I still have the scar to prove this.
70.
Yearbook photos are taken during a cruel time in our lives, when that single thing you're known for is enough to summarize you completely. Leafing through mine, I see the girl who attempted suicide, the klepto, the puke king, the smartass. Me. After I met a few Pine Pointers, I found them in their yearbooks. Matonabee School, 1975 to 1980.
I lived in Pine Point from 75 to 84. Naming a band's a tough thing to do. Better off just doesn't flow. And I wanted...
Kim Castle had a job with the mine, but that's not what she's remembered for. Kim was the latest hairstyle, the newest dance moves, the eyeshadow and attitude of a wider world.
In a night, I usually...
She didn't need to know that Pine Point would one day shut down to know that she wasn't there to stay. In the meantime, though, even the smallest town needs some glamour.
Like a Kim Mitchell, Phil Collins.
My name's Lyle Rennick. I live in Hinton.
Wayne and Lyle
Alberta.
Herniak
We moved
were
to Pine
separated by
Point,
8 years.
1970.
Wayne was always headed for the
I would have
mine.
been 3 years
Lyle
old, kinda
went the
starting
opposite
life there,
direction,
and,
as younger brothers
eventually
often
both
do.
My parents ended up
The
working
closest
at
he
the
came was a
mines,
summer
and,
job in high school as a guide for mine
right up
tourists.
until
Every
then.
place has its
My
current,
name is Wayne
its counter-current.
Rennick, Wayne Rennick, Wayne Reinuk. There's many, a lot of people.
I was psychotic, athletic, a bully.
By his own
I
admission,
never used to
Richard
pick
was a piece
fights,
of work.
but I ended up-
Bully is the first word
When
he
Kim
uses to describe his
went to
teenage
Reading
self.
in 92,
Every Pine Pointer I met remembered
like you
him.
could tell, she
He'd pushed
didn't-
around
she
one of the
still didn't
brothers
like me.
and dated the
I
beauty.
drank lots,
He was an
partied lots,
athlete, a
sleeping
woodsman,
in, not showing
a
up for
ladies'
work,
man,
stuff like that,
the guy
fighting,
you'd
knocked
fear,
out teeth,
loathe,
go to work.
and wish to
Then
have
I
as a
joined
friend.
karate and I joined the gym and everything. Then I got big.
Time passes and we'll be defined by our jobs, our families, our accomplishments. Who we were is still a part of who we are, at least to those who knew us when. As we lose touch, we're happiest when we get some minor update about the people from our past. Enough to know that they landed on the other side. Enough to touch up our mental portrait of them and forget about them until next time. Kim went on to fulfill her yearbook prophecy. Ambition, to be a social worker. She still sings, though the costumes are archived in a tickle trunk in her basement. Her recollections of Pine Point are less quick to surface. But when they do, they're mostly happy.
14.
Lyle and Wayne now run 3 Tim Hortons, nicely situated for success on the road to Jasper. Their relationship is, well, brotherly. That unique mixture of love and rivalry. They're proud of Pine Pointers, enough that they're going back to visit. What they'll be exploring there is the past. Richard remains larger than life. He has mellowed and come to terms with his new self. Just before leaving Pine Point, he found out that a pile of accumulating symptoms added up to the early stages of MS. He has no regrets or anger, though he's now a man who lives at the whim of schedules, lists, restrictions. It has focused him in other ways. Being from Pine Point has become one of his most vital characteristics. Richard loves the town, maybe more than anything else in his life. After the infrastructure is built and the systems put in place, people move in, go to work, go to school, get married, have children, hold funerals. That town becomes a community. How long does a town have to be around before you make a souvenir spoon with its name on it? Longer than it takes for people to make the spoon rack, apparently.
The town of Pine Point is the most carefully planned and modern community north of the 60th parallel.
There's
There
a
are
sadness
schools
in
for the
mementos.
A medical
They
clinic,
commemorate something
and
that
a
might
full
never
range
be
of
again.
commercial outlets.
A baby blanket,
Pine Point also
or that
has
one
Roman Catholic,
seemingly
Baptist, and
inconsequential
Pentecostal
object that you can't bear to
and
get rid of,
United
even though
Anglican
all it
Lutheran
does is sit at the bottom of a box.
There is a wide range
For
of
me,
recreational activities
it's a
for the
candle holder my
population
dad
of
made.
1800.
The only
The
thing that would
centerpiece,
make me
of course,
sad if it
is
broke.
the arena and curling rink complex.
The mine's owners produced a video.
People fly in
Pine
to play
Point
the 9-hole
Memories.
layout, which boasts the only grass fairways in the Northwest Territories. The greens, however, are brown. And the fishing?
Some objects hold the history that made them possible. People cared enough to name a group and have a badge made. Richard doesn't have a lot of keepsakes, but he does have a dozen hats from Pine Point in his bottom right-hand dresser drawer. Hats that a younger version of himself once wore. He took the time to make sure each one looked good before we started filming. I remember January 24th, 1978. That day, a Russian satellite, Cosmos 954, crashed near Yellowknife. After the fact, I convinced myself I'd seen little glinty pieces falling from the sky. It was a bit of vanity, really, like I had somehow orchestrated the whole thing. I suppose we all want to be involved. Pine Pointers recollect their past more acutely than I do. They have more stories to tell, and those stories have more details. Like they know the whole guest list for every house party that happened 20 years ago. Well, that's how it seems. Anyway.
That's one thing that was, my fondest memories there was just the sports that was there. We played sports 12 months of the year, hockey in the room ball in the winter, volleyball in the winter, basketball, baseball, golf in the summertime. So, you've got lifelong buddies that were teammates, still keep in contact with them, but...
Richard told me a lot of stories about fighting.
When you were young,
My favorite is the one where he
lots of
punched a man who was
wrong
chewing a
guys
toothpick.
to punch major
As the
tough
man
ones
fell
got
to the
it.
ground,
I
Richard
hope my
snapped the
honesty
still
got
spinning
more
toothpick
hurt,
out of the
but
air.
make sure you guys
In
kept
Richard's
walking
memories,
for a long time.
he's
About
the undefeated
30
champ.
seconds, kicked the living shit out of him outside, and he was starting to hit me, and I let him go. 3 guys caused rest. The guy.
Everyone remembers the day the high school burned down. For the adults, one of the pillars of the community was threatened. For the kids, having the center of your universe go up in smoke was equal parts nightmare and dream come true. Wake up, sweetie. Your school burned to the ground this morning.
And as I got closer and closer, you could see the flames, and it was like, this is real. And
Memory is funny. Specific and vague. Visceral and unreliable. Truth and fiction. And so I went to see the remnants of Cosmos 954 at the Yellowknife Archives.
Mom, it's Mike.
It existed. Now,
just gonna
it's burnt
ask
out
you,
pieces of
two
metal,
things.
like giant shell
I just wanted
casings
to
on a
ask
shelf
you,
in cold
do you
storage.
remember when that Russian
The more I
satellite
thought about the
crashed
whole
up near
event,
Yellowknife?
the less sure I was that I actually
No,
witnessed
I'm sorry,
it at all.
I don't remember. I mean, it was a long time ago, I know that.
Well, we were still up there when it happened, right? Happened, or?
Oh,
'cause I
yeah.
can't remember.
Pine Point is surrounded by dozens of otherworldly pits. Some are ringed with crumbled rock, others filled with cerulean pools. It's all very fountain of youth meets post-nuclear accident, an industrial beauty you almost feel guilty for noticing. Just outside of town, you'll find the former tailings ponds, a treeless gravel blanket that smothers color to the horizon. If all this manipulated geography had a footnote, it would read something like, "They came here to work." From the moment an event occurs, it's simplified and purified in memory. We shave off the rough edges, and what happened becomes a story or even a legend.
I shoveled 32 tons of zinc in one day. And it might have been more even. God always keeps guys like going faster, faster, faster. Pretty well worked herself out of the job. I remember one time, somebody took a picture of me, and when I'd stop, you couldn't see me from the steam coming off me.
Did the fact that their task was so intensely primal, digging raw materials out of the earth, sharpen their memories of the place? Did anyone ever pause to think that the work of Pine Point was a metaphor for the future of the town? It would live on only for those willing to dig into history, into memory.
We're in M52. This deposit is called the prismatic deposit, where you can see above the ramps here, it comes around like a corkscrew.
In good times, we're usually pretty optimistic. There will be growth, work, and markets will rise. When there's a downturn and headlines turn ominous, we might get a sense that a way of life is ending for someone, somewhere. I've never lost a job, or even been laid off. I'm pretty sure that every place I've ever worked is still open, except the North Keg in Regina, definitely closed. Wayne Herniuk left before Pine Point closed. For him, the end meant he would forever be missing a touchstone. In its place, a bunch of loose ends.
He asked me when I've been back, so well, it's not there anymore. And I do feel a sense of, I don't know what it is. It's just, for me, it's weird to say that I don't have a hometown anymore because it's not there. I would like to say...
For Kim, Pine Point became the kind of hometown we see in movies. The place she could leave behind, make her triumphant return to, aspire away from. She looks back on it fondly enough, though. When I look at people's faces in the old Pine Point photos, there's no sense of hesitation. No hint that they knew that one day, this all might end. What remains of Pine Point is an unfinished sentence.
Toast to Lord. Good luck.
Thank you very much. 20 years of selling rotten apples.
On behalf of the Pine Point Education Society, I am pleased to have this opportunity to extend congratulations to you, the final graduating class of Otonabee High School, and wish you every...
Excuse me, doctor, you said you've been here started coming here since what?
1964.
What about, we've got a couple of ladies here, a receptionist and a nurse. How about them? What will they be doing? Are they going to be here, it seems, as you, or?
Oh, they may be here.
Legion, Pine Point, I turn my beret in. Many cheers for Pine Point.
You know what's weird? When you decide to get rid of a town, there are odd considerations and effects. For instance, once it's gone, has it really, truly disappeared?
To see that the pavement's starting to go away and there's really not, there's just nothing. I still can't picture it barren. I would one day maybe like to make a trip up there just to see it for myself. Because when I think of Pine Point, I still think of my home, the town, the rec hall, the arena, all those places that we knew and had fun.
The government produces documents and forms you didn't know existed, attempts to address the situation. Pine Pointers got letters telling them their hometown would have its name removed from the map. Most of the homes were sold and moved to nearby towns. Pine Pointers can tour places like nearby Hay River or High Level, Alberta, and try to spot their old houses. An entire section of townhouses, Browntown, named for its brown buildings, was moved to Hay River where it was basically abandoned. It's now that community's eyesore, and still referred to as Browntown. You can go to Fort Resolution and skate in the same ice rink I did when I first went to Pine Point. Turns out, the lobby is gray. It was never blue. A while back, someone found a basement that had somehow escaped burial. You pull back an old sheet of plywood, crawl through a hole, and you're standing in the basement of the Pine Point Hotel. There are cleaning supplies, a room full of receipts and pay stubs, hallways with peeling paint, empty chairs. Then you return to the surface and the hotel disappears. I noticed that Pine Pointers often feel a distinct need to be the last person to. At least 4 claim the final drink in the hotel bar. Pine Pointers still visit their hometown. Some travel thousands of miles to get there. They bring family, friends, they reminisce or introduce the place to people who've never been or were too young to remember or weren't born yet. Just over there, some proof that it all really happened. Absence preserves and prevents what might have been. The corner store will never become an Arby's. Your family home won't be painted, have an addition built, be raised to make way for a parking lot. Recollection will always be the most accurate version of that place and time.
You do end up with a utopia, and you think that there was nothing wrong, nothing bad ever happened. But in reality, it was a normal community. Bad stuff happened all the time. What we've created for a hometown.
What amazed most folks is that the town's least likely resident stepped up to be its caretaker.
Mouse 9. 579. Click. Mouse click. Mouse click.
When Pine Point was shut down, Richard moved to Victoria to become a bouncer. But it turns out he wasn't mean enough. The fighter turned out to be a protector.
5-3.
He ended up working with severely handicapped kids, including kids with MS. Richard's limbs are useless to him now. He builds the Pine Point website using only his voice. It's excruciating to watch, slowly pushing pixels up an ever-steepening hill. I suppose we all want a chance to edit our story, to keep the best stuff on top,
300.
bury the rest, decide how we'll be remembered by others.
Mouse 5. Click. Mouse 6. 5-3. 6 click.
Richard then? That guy who was always in fights. Richard now. He kept the town alive.
Lots of luck.
Okay, thanks again.
Thank you.
They get together once a year at the Pine Point Bash. Over weekend, they set off fireworks, talk about a place that once was, find out what became of who, when. Richard still hopes to go, one last time. I can't help but wonder if Pine Pointers are in some way happier people, if there's a kind of relief in having their hometown gone and their memories cast in amber. I couldn't find an answer to that question. I haven't had their past. They haven't had my future. Do they wonder about the day the bash will come to an end? This year was canceled due to conflicting functions.